In order to understand the stigma against crossbreeding dogs, we need to understand where purebred dogs came from in the first place. Many people believe that our purebred dogs have existed for hundreds of years, while others believe that they date back to the conception of the dog show around 1860. However, both of those beliefs are incorrect. The first record we have of a truly closed gene pool dates back to only 1946, which was less than 100 years ago. Dr. Alison Skipper of the Royal Veterinary College in London has dedicated her career to researching the history of purebred dogs. She talks about her research in this podcast episode on the Functional Breeding Podcast. You should definitely go watch the whole thing, but I'm going to summarize some of the important bits for you. Prior to the invention of dog shows in the 1860s, our current understanding of purebred dogs really did not exist at all. Dr. Skipper compares it to the difference between a spectrum of color and individual paint swatches you buy at the store. There were definitely distinct types of dogs, but there was also a huge variation in between. For example, prior to the 1860s, we didn't have the distinct breeds of spaniels that we have today. Rather, spaniel was a general type of dog, but their individual characteristics varied depending on the location or who owned them. Another example is the Beauceron and the Briard. Prior to dog shows, this was actually one type of herding breed with two different coat types. And after dogs were divided and classified for dog shows, they split them up into two distinct breeds so that they could show them separately. So when dog shows became popular, people started writing breed standards and tracking pedigrees. However, this was done on an open registry, and the change to closed registries didn't happen for almost 100 years after. Dr. Skipper's research indicates that around 1910, 1/3 to 2/3 of all show dogs came from unregistered parents, and 15% had totally untraceable ancestry. The transition to closed registries was actually initiated by the Irish Setter Club. During the early 1900s, Irish setters were plagued by a form of PRA that caused early onset blindness in puppies. A member of the club discovered that they could eliminate the PRA gene by performing test matings and intentionally producing blind puppies in order to discover which dogs carried the gene. However, in order to successfully complete the project, they needed to close the gene pool so that no dogs with undetermined ancestry were being bred. The PRA project was so successful that the remainder of the British Kennel Club closed their doors to outcrosses in 1971. From that point forward, all breeds were maintained on closed stud books. However, this has had a devastating impact on their genetic diversity. The first closed stud book was done for a health reason. However, it's important to understand that the strategy they used is no longer needed today due to modern genetic testing. Because of what we've learned about canine health and genetics since the 1940s, the strategies that they used back then no longer really make any sense now. That being said, closed stud books have become an ingrained part of dog breeding culture, and many breeders can't see a way without them. If we are to improve the health of our dogs, we need to go back to outcrossing like our ancestors once did. And you'll hear me talking a lot about outcrossing in this series. But outcrossing existing breeds is not the only way to produce healthy dogs. And in future episodes, I will talk about the potential that doodles represent for a better future.